Alright, so following up with the previous video with a fast start guide using the Respawn Rover. Today I'm going to focus on how to make your first base as efficient as possible and also using your Respawn Rover. So let's get started. So there's really three ways to get started really quickly. One is the GPS location. If you're lucky enough, it is fairly close. And for us, it is 62 kilometers away. So that is a no-go. Other one would be a planetary encounter or installation. Grab, so if it's neutral and not hostile, easy to grab, take over, and build your base from there. And of course, lastly, build your very own base on its own. Out of 3 to 4 tries, I'm always trying to get the algae farm going before the sun goes down. And traveling too far away to look for your perfect spot doesn't seem to be ideal. It doesn't really work out too well. So what if we turn the rover into a drilling machine as quickly as possible and build a base where we stand, and we can look for ice and other resources a little bit later down the line? Will we be able to get an algae farm going quick enough that way? We'll see right now. All right, so we got our drill going. I'm just going to turn it on really fast so we get that going. And within the survival kit, it already has materials for you. So in terms of production, queue up all the ingot production first. And then we could queue up a few things as well, like an assembler and a basic refinery. You also throw in a few interior plates first to get started on that. And some girders so we can make solar panels so we could get our rotors and hinges and pistons and things like that. So instead of kind of like really looking for your perfect spot, we're just going to roam around, not too much, because we don't want the sun to go down too quickly. So the sun is currently right there, and it is probably going to set down this way. So we do not have a lot of time. I guess ideally we head towards the sun so that it doesn't set. That actually might work out. So if I'm not going away from the sun, then we might have a better chance. So right now we are gathering stone through the drill system. Ooh, there's a boulder here with iron. Okay, this might be very useful. So this is a good find. So all the times we tried this, probably 3 to 4 times, and it really didn't go too well. Everything took about an hour or more to get started and thriving. And what I mean by thriving is by finishing up with some ice in your irrigation system and a farm plot growing some food. But these boulders help get us a lot of stone really quickly. And it actually has gotten us a little bit too much in terms of iron too, but that's going to help us down the line. So of course we're going to do a cargo container here. So we can go with a medium cargo container for now. I think that should be fine. We may have enough materials for all this as well. All right, there you go. So that will give us more space. We can grab try to grab a little bit more stone, more than the iron. We are getting a little bit more iron than what we really want. But that's fine as long as we get a refinery going as fast as possible. All right, we are completely filled up. So we should probably turn off our drill system. Okay, and we're going to head towards the sun. And as you see, there's a prospecting station. So we could go ahead and take over the base and go from there. But I did that before too. Still took close to an hour. So the sun is, I believe, is going to set that way. So we're going to travel along this way so we could get some more lay of the land and also some resources. Maybe some fruits and vegetables as we travel along this way. We can continue to gather some stone and produce some things in our production, which is always a good thing. We do need to queue up a little bit more motors because that seems to be always a low resource. So we're going to only utilize a little bit of time to kind of find a good spot. We don't want to waste too much time. And we got some grains right here. Perfect. All right, so the sun is probably, yeah, even though we're heading towards the sunset, I think we are still wasting time where we won't be able to get a algae farm going because it sets faster than I can drive. I mean, I can set the top speed a little bit faster for the wheels. That also poses an issue. But if we get to the peak of the mountain here, if it becomes a mountain, that'd be great. All right, we're getting to a point where it's becoming a little bit more mountainous right in this area. So this might be saving us a little bit more time with the sun, which would be good. So we can kind of chill maybe right over here. It looks like that would be nice. Or if we could transverse it, we probably want to be on that mountain right over there. Oh, nope, 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 nope. That would be a little bit more difficult to do going down here. Okay. All right, we might want to stay here then. If that's the case. Okay, I'm just going to back it up a little bit so we can get a slightly more flatter area. I'm going to transverse to the right over here because it looks like it's a little better spot. And of course, I flipped the rover a little bit and did a little bit of damage, which is not too crazy. I think we broke the antenna and ore detector, so that's not a good sign. All right, here is a nice, good, flat spot to begin our journey with the base. We'll stop right here. And the sun is, yeah, it's not as bad. It's decent, but it's not too crazy. We could have utilized, well, we could utilize the ore detector and antenna items, but looks like that's toast. So we'll just get rid of that. Ore detector is still okay, so we should be fine. We should be able to build that up. All right, let's get a base going. So let's try to do this as quick as possible. So we do need an interior wall to start with. All right, so we're going to build the frame 3x3 for now. And if you have the fieldwork DLC, that'll be perfect. Because then once you have an interior wall built up like so, you can make a slab, which is a 3x3. And it just uses one interior plate to make a frame 3x3. But since we are going to pretend we don't have that DLC, we'll build out a 3x3, which is going to be 9 interior plates wasted for this. But it should be fine. So now what we're going to do is build our basic stuff, which is going to be basic assembler, basic refinery, and all that jazz. So of course, we're going to put a basic assembler right here. We're going to put a basic refinery. We should really attach it together to get a port. So I'm going to throw it right here, where we can put a port together later down the line. So what we want to do is get this done first, and then we'll make a drill system to go upwards. So we are going to need a conveyor junction or so. Or even a C-tube or a T-tube in this case. Let's just go with the C-tubing for now. And that's just throwing out the frame. So we'll get this thing done as soon as possible if we can. And there we go. We got our basic assembler up and running. And now we need to get this up and running as soon as possible if we can. We could try to get... I don't know if we can, but try to get the refinery up and running. We need a lot of steel plates for that. We might be out of stone by the time that gets done, but let's just queue it up anyways to see if we can. We also need to make a quick little solar panel. There we go. We don't necessarily need it, so we'll just grind it down. And let's just hope we can get this refinery up and running. All right, so while we wait for all this to get done, we can start stripping the rover a little bit, so we can get rid of all these steel plates or light armor blocks here for our steel plate needs. We can throw in the refinery, and there's a bunch of steel plates down here as well where the spare tire was. And if we're desperate, we could grab it from here as well, but I think we should be okay. All right, it sounds like we just ran out of materials, but yes, we're able to get this basic refinery up and running. But of course, you'd be asking, what about power? So the power is actually going to come from this here. So what we're going to do is going to be attaching a hinge right onto this here. And I don't think we get algae farm going before the sun is going down, because it looks like it's nearly down already. All right, we'll throw a hinge here. We don't need a part there. This should be large steel tubes, motors, and such, which we probably don't have enough materials for. So we may need to get some stone really quick if we can. And back here is where we're going to put in the hinge part. But we got to figure out how it looks while we back it up a little bit better. So basically, it does get a little bit rough to do because we can clang this thing out and blow up the cargo container, which is not what we want to do, but there's a chance this whole thing could break. So it looks like it lines up okay. If we want to be on the safe side of things, we'll take the hinge, and it's incomplete. We're taking it off so there's not enough torque to really mess with it. And we'll put the hinge head 3x3 right over here in this vicinity. So we need more steel plates. All right, so we might have to jack a few from here, if anything. So we'll throw in the hinge head 3x3 here. We don't need to weld that up, but we need to weld this thing up here. So we need construction components and large steel tubes and motors. But yeah, the sun's going down, so I really don't think it is possible to really get an algae farm before the sunset on your initial start, which is kind of crappy, but it is what it is. Guess that's what makes it a little bit more challenging in a sense in terms of a start. So that's not looking too bad. What we can do if we want to be on the safe side, get a steel plate or two. We're going to build random block here. So if it does break, it's going to break the light armor block and not the whole cargo container, because that'll be a bigger mess. All right, that's good. So we'll back this thing into the hinge here if we can. Okay, that almost fits like a glove. So that might work out okay. And let's just hope it doesn't blow up in our faces. So we're going to do a hinge attach, and we're good. So now we have power. And of course, the sun is already nearly setting, which is not great. So we can grab our iron that we got earlier to get things going a lot quicker, because our refinery is going to refine a lot of iron ores for ingots. So we'll throw all that in here, and the rest can kind of go in the assembler. So while that's producing, what we can work on is this. And what we're going to do is actually get a piston going. So we need several pistons, not too much. And actually at the same time, we can produce some bottles. So let's just try to queue up 2 bottles if we can. So let's get 2 bottles for hydrogen. So that way we could look for materials quicker. So in order to get hydrogen, unfortunately, there's no real good way to do it without grinding this thing down really quickly. Just a little bit. Then you can throw in your bottles, because everything in here utilizes... You have to do auto refill or refill bottle. But everything in here utilizes small ports. So that's why it's you have to grind this down in order to get access to the hydrogen tank. So from here, we can fly to the unknown signal, get more resources as we wait for things now. So we don't have to wait for... Use the rover to drive everywhere slowly. But for now, we're going to throw in a piston going upwards. We're going to do a C-shape, C tubing right over here. We're going to grab another piston to go this way. And then another C tubing to go downwards. And then from there, we're going to do another piston. And lastly, we're going to do a hinge right over here. And we'll lay it out kind of that way. But we are going to get rid of that. Why? Because we're going to attach our rover onto this as well. So we need this to be done first. And then we need this piston to be done so we can drop it. So we probably grab this hinge parts, piston parts, and see if we can queue it up in the basic assembler. So we got a decent amount of items so far from the refinery. 968 of iron, which is not a lot, but it's decent. But we at this time, while we wait for stuff to produce, we can go ahead and get the unknown signals. So this is the more efficient way of doing things. Try to get an assembler and get your bottles as quickly as possible so you can fly around and go and get more resources. Or at least locate them a lot faster. Alright, here's the unknown signal, and this is going to give us everything we need in terms of materials, and we actually got lucky. We got a large hydrogen thruster, small grid, 22 metal grids. That is a lot, and I might not even be able to bring everything back. So, yikes! But we do want to get the seeds and this here. So let's toss out the gravel because we don't need that. And we're inventory full. Jeez. Was not hoping for that to happen, but it did. Not much we can get rid of. DPS, that probably not going to help much. So we can come back for this if we need to. But we got a bunch of metal grids, which is useful. We can build a cargo container later down the line really quickly. We could also turn our respawn pod into a ship by putting on atmospheric thrusters because we're an Earth-like, so that really works out. But unfortunately, I couldn't get an algae farm going before the sun went down, so that's what really sucks. Okay, so we got that in there. We could go back for more materials if we need to. I think we should be okay for now. We'll just get this hinge kind of fixed up. All right, so we got this hinge up and running, so we could transfer that over once we get this piston done. So now we can cut the power once we drop this piston a little bit lower. How much lower? We don't know for sure. I wish I had a better viewpoint here. We're probably gonna have to do it from here. All right, we'll set the piston down using this button here. Maximum distance. We're going to say probably 0.08. So we don't need it to go too low. All right, that's not low enough. And we're going to do a very dicey thing. And that is attach it on the survival kit. Not something you really want to do because you can destroy it. But we'll take the risk to say we are doing this the most efficient way possible, without having to get materials for a new drill, a large bridge drill. So we're just going to use the rover as our new drilling system right over here. So we're going to do the same thing before to make it as safe as possible. Turn it off and have it torqueless for now, just to be on the safe side, because I mean we are able to get close to it. And looks like it's decent. So it might cling out just a tiny bit. I have a back turn on it, but we're going to hit attach. And that didn't sound like it blew up, so that's good. So now we got power back into a system and we can start drilling. So what we want to do, obviously, is bring this back up. And we can start drilling that way. But if we have the materials to bring this one up, that'll be better. We might not have enough large steel tubes. We need 4. Let's see if we have that. We do. So we should be okay. Perfect. So now we can bring this thing up a little bit. And then we'll let that dangle down straight. And what we can also do at the same time is control the hinge right here and get it to exactly 0 current angle if possible. So we need to bring our torque back and turn it on. And velocity right there, 0. Perfect. So now we get drilling. Turn that on. And we can drop this ever so slowly. But before we do that, we are going to grab the wheels off from here. So we can go down in a pretty decent hole. And we can collect the materials. But we could also collect the steel plates off of the designs there too. So now we could bring this drill or this piston down a little bit. And we could go negative 0.2 to be on the slower side. And that should definitely give us a lot more stone. So one of the big problems is that our stone is not going into our refinery right now because of the way we have this constructed. But right now it's all going to go to the survival kit anyway because nothing is plumbed up. All right, we got to check on our drill just to make sure we're not getting too much in there. Our survival kit's working hard to get us everything we can. That works out. All right. Let's get this piston done. Okay, that's done. We need to get the curved conveyors done. So it looks like we may need to queue up a little bit small steel tubes. And grab some iron. All right, let's stop producing stuff. So once that's dropped down low enough, we can drop this one down as well. We're gonna get this piston head done. Try to do it without the large steel tubes because we don't want the large steel tubes to be wasted on the piston head right now. So get these done, and we're pretty much plumb. We just get those things done, but we don't have enough stone. So what we're gonna do is drop this thing down. Let's go really slow. So this is gonna be a positive. So positive 1.1. And it shit, it looks like a kind of a chicken going to an oven kind of thing with the rover. But that's going to get us a lot of stone. And we need to get these plumbed up as well as soon as possible. So we're going to break this thing down. And we could work with conveyor junction here. Okay, before we get that all welded up, we need to do a C tubing in here for now. And we need tier plate. Okay, so we'll get these two done. So now all this should be plumbed up and all the stone should be going into our refinery right over here. So if we grab the stone and put in base refinery, that works out. And it's going to go to assembler. So all this is now plumbed. And I don't know if this thing is stuck or no, it's because we have maximum distance on. So we'll reset that, let this go down deep, get as much stone as possible, fill up our refineries with stone, and that's how we're going to get this working. All right, so once that's all done and it is clanging out a little bit, we should be okay. Hopefully don't break anything. We may need to get the piston to go down a little bit on the slower side then, so like a 0.05 maybe. We don't want it to cling out too much. But since we got all that done, we could get a turbine now to get some power. So I like to use cylindrical columns for whatever reason to do that, which is not necessary at all. So we could start it right over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 will get us to where we need it to be. Get a turbine going up and running up top right over here. We need a little bit more girders and pistons, so we'll just queue it up using build planner in this way. And here we got our first power source. And from here on out is where we're going to do food production. So we need a food processor, which we do need to do an algae farm first, unfortunately. So here's the algae farm. It does need a lot of glass. So we can get glass from our cockpit. We should have 30. So we just need to get 10 glass up and running if we can. Inventory full. We'll grab some stuff out. So the algae farm, ideally, we should have it all connected somewhere. Something just broke. The sun is over there, so we can throw the algae farm here for the time being, or even on top of the refinery, and see if we get this thing going. All right, we are pretty deep in there, which I hope nothing really broke. The drill, something on the drill broke, it seems. We'll take the glass from there, throw it in here. Get our cockpit back up and running. Turn off the drill because we don't need the drill on anymore. Algae farm up and running, which we're not going to be able to use it until the sun comes back up, unfortunately. But that does open up our food processor. So we have our food processor right over here. And we can connect it from the back over here. And looks like we may need to add a few more things. May need to add a bit of a platform down here if we can. And we just hit the 45-minute mark as the survival level 1 just hit. And here is our food processor. And the next thing we need is a irrigation system. which could be plumbed, it could not be plumbed. We could just kind of throw it. I could throw it right over here and plumb it up later. There you go. So we got an irrigation system up and running, but we don't have ice. That's the biggest problem that we're running into. And after that, we have our farm plots. So we throw it over here. Looks like, let's just see if I can queue this up. We could only put 2 for now. And of course, we can expand on that later down the line. Oh, we got a wolf. Our first wolf. Oh, we got a whole big pack too. Oh, did not mean to do that. All right, 1 ran away, so that's not good. But we got some food, so this is going to help us survive a little longer. Because we didn't even eat anything whatsoever yet. I don't know where that wolf ran, but it's okay. Did waste 1 interior wall, though, and that's kind of in the way now. So we got 2 food plots, but no ice just yet. And we're a little over 45 minutes. So that's the quickest way I can get it to be done. We do have grain and mushroom seed and fruit. So we can always put these in the food processor. Under food processor, go to harvesting. We can create some seeds. So fruit seeds, grain seeds, and we got mushroom spores. So that could generate some kind of food, I think, right? Grain and fruit can do a pretty good thing. Fruit pastry, 2 and 2. So if we grow that, that would be awesome. Because we don't have vegetables. So it looks like for now we can survive on fruit pastry meal packs once we get some ice going for this. But since we got some meat, we can throw in that. So the other problem we have currently is that we don't have a lot of storage. But we did get some metal grids, so luckily that works out. If we didn't get metal grids, I would probably go through a hinge with a small head and do a modular cargo container just in case. But since we do have metal grids from grabbing previously, we can attach it right over here. So this is a good start. A little less than under an hour. We got a base with everything we need. And the only thing we need to look for is ice. And then we are basically thriving in terms of food consumption. We didn't eat anything, and by default, it's a moderate consumption or hunger level. We're at 40% of hunger already. But again, we got some cooked mammal meat. So that's going to fix us up at 18%. A little better than kelp crisp. So we can grab, let's just say 2 for now. We can even throw it in our 2 bar here if we really, really wanted to. And go ahead and munch on it for our first meal for success. All right, so we still got a little bit more to do right here. We can fix this up too. So let's just build this into a T-shape conveyor tubing. And we could do a C shape right here. So that should help fix this up here. Okay, so we all plumbed up. Now we really need to get some ice. If we have the materials for it, we'll probably change out our rover back into a rover. And then we could build out a regular drill system on the hinge. So let's go ahead and kind of do that. So our wheels, we'll add back the wheels. This way we can continue to travel and locate some resources. But again, we are on the verge of thriving. The only thing we're missing is ice for harvesting. Okay, so with that done, I'm gonna get our hinge to kind of velocity ourselves 90 degrees. And one of the pistons that we have is horizontal. So we're gonna reverse that. And we'll reverse this one to go down. And we should be able to just detach off it, no problem. So we're going to go to, once everything's down all the way, we're going to detach and come off of the base after utilizing it as a drill system and power. We detach there and we are good to go. Ooh, I don't want it. Put it on park. Okay, so we can cut this hinge part off and add a hinge part here. a regular one. Okay, and we could tack on a regular old drill on here instead of a small grid drill. So we'll just throw that right over here, which we don't have all the materials for now, but we could come back and get more. And before I forget, as we venture off, we want a GPS point to this. And if we are going to venture off, we should probably take all the cooked meats with us and eat one more. Yeah, more or less, we should probably look for more resources. Oh, right. We did lose our ore detector. So let's get rid of this event controller real quick and see if we get an ore detector running. We can. And this, we can use type 2 this time if we really, really wanted to. And place it up here. So use this day. So now we should venture off and look for some resources. Ice, iron, cobalt, and anything else we can find. And of course, we're going to do it for no reason at all in the night. But if you want to say that's pretty much done in terms of an early base or quick base, we kind of accomplished it in about 50 minutes. Can you do a little quicker than that? Possibly. But I can't really call it thriving until we can get the ice. All right, so we got iron deposit here. So unfortunate thing is that we do need a hand drill if we want to get more iron resources here. Because we could always come back and gather iron a little bit later for resources. More importantly, we want to stay alive in terms of not starving to death. I still can't believe I've actually flipped the rover. Out of the few playthroughs I've done to get a really fast, efficient start, that never happened until now. Yeah, our best bet might be going towards those mountains to get a little bit of ice. It is going to be a little bit of hand drilling. Or we could even go to the prospecting station. That's also a possibility. All right, gold and silver. Definitely going to use that later down the line if necessary. Yeah, ice is going to be right there. That's probably our best bet unless we find it underground. So we might hit a cliff where we might have to venture off by jetpack. So again, we could go to a prospecting station and get stuff, but right now I am more or less looking for ice more than anything else. And we're foraging for food. Okay, I don't know how we're going to get back later down the line, if anything, but we should be somewhat okay. I hope. All right, ice is very far. We filled the bottle. Probably should have brought 3 with us, but we should be okay. Time to venture off. And hopefully get some ice. Yes, there is ice up here. So we are good to gather the snow pile here. Unfortunately, hand drilling, but what choice do we have at the moment? All right, that gave us about 2k of ice. We might need to do another run. We're not too far from the respawn pod, so we can do several runs if necessary. Let's head back. This is going to be a treacherous ride. It kind of almost looks like where we started from, kind of, but not really. We are a little bit further away, actually. By the time we get back, the sun's probably up, and that's going to hit our hour-and-a-half marker, basically. But don't like that there's a fog right now, but should be okay. All right, 7 kilometers away, so that's going to be another probably 7 minutes. Oh, I just found some ice in this vicinity right here. And silicon. So we could have just went here for ice, but we didn't know to look here. We just kind of found it. But for future reference, now we don't have to fly way, way too far to get it. We just got to get 7 kilometers away. Okay. And we should be able to get some seeds going here. I'm going to go and harvest. Oh, before we do that, let's throw all our food items in the food processor. So we have 1 vegetable, so that definitely needs to be seeded. So now we have 1 of each. And spare. Can we make any food? Looks like we got a fruit pastry that we can grab. It's 40% fill level, so that's not bad. We got tons of fruit and a little bit of grain, but we have a seed for it, so it's not that bad. We'll take that just in case, which is going to fill us up a lot more than the wolf meat. So that is perfect. We even still have kelp Chris. So we are kind of thriving already. So I'm just going to eat this now to fill up what we can in terms of our bar. And for the food plot or farm plots, time to get seeding. Vegetable goes pretty fast, but grain and fruit sounds like a better bet because it does the 40% fill rate. So it'll be easier to do that instead. But obviously, we could add a little bit more farm plots. We could add one right above this cargo container if we really needed to as well. But basically, we're done here. About an hour and a half, slightly a little over, to be called thriving with your first base, meaning we are growing our own food and we're set up to the point where we are looking for resources. So this is a good start with minimal hand drilling, kind of being as efficient as possible by using a respawn pod as our power source and drill system early on. Now it's time to get more resources and build a home. Hope you guys found this one helpful to build your very first base and get thriving with Apex Survival. If you did, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to drop a comment down below even to say hi. And consider hyping the video. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.